Warriors, grit and grind. Build back what we had, ain't no we find. Generation fighters take the stand. From shore to shore, we reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey Shore, we make our stand.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Jersey Shore podcast. That's S-U-R-E because we are always shore, brought to you by the Great America's Pulse Network. I'm your host, Damon Galdo, and I have two special guests that are on tonight that I'll get to in a minute after we go through this breaking news. So the breaking news tonight, I kind of put it in my monologue as well, but breaking news, Trump federalizes D.C., takes over the Capitol Police, and sends in the National Guard. So that was pretty big today, what Trump did. And it actually worked out good with this episode about the Convention of States and the first segment, or the first Hammer segment. I got to get used to that, Hammer number one, and that will come up after this monologue. So here goes the monologue. Let's talk about something most Americans have never heard of, but it's one of the most powerful tools the founders gave us to take our country back. It's called the Convention of States. It's right there in Article 5 of the Constitution. And here's the beauty of it. It has absolutely nothing to do with Congress. In fact, it was designed specifically to go around Washington, D.C., and when the swamp gets too big to drain from the inside. Now, 2/3 of the state legislators, that's 34 states, can call a convention to propose constitutional amendments, things like term limits for Congress, a balanced budget amendment, or reining in the power of unelected bureaucrats. And then 3/4 of the states, that's 38, have to approve anything that comes out of it. Washington has no veto. The president has no veto. Congress can't stop it. This is the people, through their states, putting the federal government back in its place. And here's the part a lot of people don't realize. Washington, D.C. has zero authority over it. D.C. isn't a state. It never has been. The founders did that on purpose. They didn't want the seat of federal power controlling the state's ability to fix the Constitution or limit federal overreach. It was the ultimate insurance policy against tyranny. Now, fast forward to today's headlines, the breaking news I talked about. We've got President Trump back in office and watching a crime wave turn our nation's capital into a war zone, making the decision to take control of the Capitol Police and send in the National Guard. And the media is acting like this is some sort of hostile takeover. No, it's the law. It's the Constitution. The president has direct authority over D.C., National Guard, because there's no governor there to call the shots. And when Congress can't or won't protect its own buildings, the president can coordinate with or override the Capitol Police in an emergency. Why? Because D.C. is not a state. It's a federal district under federal authority. That means when crime runs rampant in the Capitol, when members of Congress are being carjacked, when tourists are afraid to visit, when our seat of government starts looking like a third world city, the president has not only the authority, but the duty to restore order. This is the same principle that makes the Convention of States so important. The founders knew there will be times when people had to go around the entrenched powers in Washington to get things done, whether that's cleaning up a lawless capital or cleaning up the Constitution itself. The founding fathers amazingly came up with these ideas 250 years ago. That's impressive. How can you get involved to preserve it? So that's my monologue. So I want to go and introduce the two guests here. I have Murn Meyers to my left here.
Hello.
And I have Patrick Giberson to my right.
How you doing?
I want to make sure I said that right. I know I was so close. I was about to mess it up. I really was. So, but thank you guys for coming on tonight. Thank you for coming on Jersey Shore.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, anytime. So, Murn, I want to ask you, tell me about your involvement with the Convention of States and how you got involved.
I got involved about 10 years ago when I signed the petition. When I realized that it was the only legal way for people to have a say, where, you know, there's a lot of complaints that my vote doesn't count and what's the point, and people don't realize that there is a legal way to fix the problems that we're currently having. So I signed the petition. and I got involved, and I've been steadily involved for, pretty much the last 8 years, going through meeting people, doing events, trying to get the word out. We just crossed 50,000 signatures in New Jersey, which is a phenomenal amount.
Wow.
Granted, we have 9 million people in the state, and we have 4 million that vote, but unfortunately, getting the word out has been a little bit of a struggle, where people don't understand the rights, and they don't have the education that the answer is right there in the Constitution that you have sitting here on the desk. So that's part of my job, is to get out there and explain to people how it works, what we can do. The resolution, we have a resolution in New Jersey. It's in the Senate. It's in the House. We also have 34 ready, which helps to explain how delegates will be chosen to go down and represent. Because with the Convention of States, all states only get one vote. So even though we have 50 states, each state only has one vote.
Yeah.
So you can send 10 delegates if you want, but you still only get one vote. So it's not like the Electoral College. It's not like the popular vote. It is one state, one vote. And that is what's really exciting, is that nobody has the upper hand in this. We're all equal. The states are all equal.
And just real quick, is there a tiebreaker in there? Because you have 34 states and then 38 that have to come in afterwards. Is there like a tie-breaking vote with the 34? Say you have 17 and 17 states want to go. You just need 34 states to come on board with it.
Mm-hmm. Right, to come on board.
You get 38 that have to pass it?
Yes.
So, okay.
Right. So I mean, there's always the chance. I mean, you see how it works now. There's always one state that's not going to have anything to do with another situation. But the point is us getting together to have the conversation. And let's talk about the things that are broken, and the things that we're having problems with, and the things that no one wants to talk about, because it's messy. It gets messy.
It is. And Pat, let me ask you, one thing that I was always fascinated by was our forefathers, but they came up with over 250 years ago. How do they have the forethought? I understand they were, living under a tyrannical government and they wanted the freedom, but to put this in as a backdoor, just as a safeguard, to come up with ideas like this, and that's just not the Convention of States. There's so many different things in our Constitution that safeguards against government getting too big and for the people. To come up with that idea, how do you think they did that?
Yeah, it's amazing, the forethought that went into this. And this is one mechanism they put in because, well, if you go back to it, I guess the point of it being, you kind of had even differences then with the Founding Fathers. You had one side that wanted a strong central government, which, we just went through a war, we got our independence, we got all this. Now we got to combine all these states together, colonies at the time, into the United States. So we need some kind of central power.
Yeah.
It's like having your kid somewhere and, everybody trying to get together. And that's kind of where we were at. Then you had the other side that kind of wanted more states' rights and so on, which comes to this. Yeah. Now we go down that road. So I think, it was kind of ingrained then that we didn't want to go back to what we just got rid of and sent back to Britain. So we looked at different avenues. How they came up with it, like you said, it's amazing that they had the forethought to see this exact time coming. And, we're still in an experiment. We're the oldest living experiment there is. And, it goes back to, once again, it's by the people, self-governance. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, one thing that always amazed me was George Washington. When he became our first president, he was, he won the war, and then they asked him to be president. He really didn't want to. And then even after his first term, they wanted him to be president again, and he didn't want to. But he relented and he did it for another term. Right. Then they asked him again, and he said no. That's it. To give up that power and walk away and say no, it's for the people. That's got to be.
Yeah, and that's the problem we're just talking about. It's the bureaucracy. And, like you said, Congress could do this too. But do you think 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House of Representatives are going to vote against themselves? Yeah, the fox is guarding the hen house here.
Yeah, exactly. So Murn, what do you think about it? What do you have to add to that? Like with George Washington back in the day. Like, how much of a safeguard this can possibly be? I mean, it is really impressive, and you can go into anything you want about it.
Well, going back to Washington had a very moral foundation. I mean, he prayed a lot, and he prayed over this country, prayed over our troops. He believed that, you know, God was first, and I think our country has lost a lot of that to where our moral foundation has kind of went away because the family unit is dissolving. So with Washington, you know, he knew that it's my, you know, this is my time, and now let somebody else step in. And each one of the founders wanted to go home. They didn't want to stay there forever. They had homes, they had families, they had kids. They didn't want to live in Washington, D.C. and be away from their families. So I give Washington a lot of credit because he was man enough to say, I'm done. I'm going back to the family. I'm going back to the farm. I'm going back to be a person. Now let's see how you do and see what the government produces that I'm going to live under. So that's a major issue there.
What do you think, you know, in today's day, what the Convention of States was meant for? What do you think that we've lost in that most people don't know about it, or people want to get away from it, or
they are not educated in it. Most kids today are not learning civics in school. Unfortunately, the history has been cut away. We don't know the actual history of our country, and we need to get back to educating them. Well, Convention of States works really well with Patriot Academy, and Patriot Academy teaches Constitution Alive, biblical citizenship, rebuilding liberty, and it's a fun class. It's educational. You don't even realize you're learning when you're sitting through them. And then it's like, you know, oh wow, I didn't know that. Oh, I forgot about that. I don't think I ever learned that. You know, the amount of Black history that's involved in our startup is not even taught in today's society. Our kids don't even know the actual original Black history, the great men that stood next to all of our founders to help create this problem, like Wentworth Cheswell. You know, Wentworth Cheswell was a phenomenal individual up in Mass. He held so many jobs, and it was majority white community. They kept voting him in because he was phenomenal. He was great at what he did. It had nothing to do with skin color. It was how well he did his jobs, and many jobs. And kids today don't even know that name. Never even heard of him.
No. Yeah, I heard of the name, but I didn't remember it until just now. To be honest with you.
No,
Exhibit A.
but it's back to, you know, the self-governance. That's what this comes down to. And, you know, we've seen this, and I don't recall who it was. I believe it was one of the reps out of Texas, about reading the Constitution when they were speaking, because nobody that we elected to go there even knows the Constitution.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? How are you representing me when you don't even know what's in that Constitution?
Yeah, I mean, do you think if you were to cite something on the Constitution, like something like AOC, you'll be able to know what you're talking about?
Well, quoting Mr. John Kennedy on that subject, that's why there's directions on a shampoo bottle. And, I love Mr. Kennedy's comment on that. So I would agree with him.
Okay. I knew right where you were going with that. I knew as soon as you started, I knew exactly where you're going with it. But yeah, I know it is. It's a shame. It really is. And I mean, I can't quote the entire Constitution or anything like that, but at least I know what it's about. And if I'm not sure about something, I can get that little book and be like, hold on, this is and just go right to it and read it. I know about it, what it means, but I don't know word for word. But at least you should know what document stands for, what it's about, and how it was created.
Yeah, and I think the other problem there is too, and this could be some of the help that would get rid of a lot of the crap that we do have in Washington. We have, I think, nothing against Mr. Kennedy again there, but we have too many attorneys, we have too many lawyers and politicians, full-time politicians that lack common sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And Their problem with the Constitution is, and we've went through this at our township meetings and everything else with our solicitors, it's interpretation of the law. No, the law is the law.
Yeah.
You can deviate from it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
They turn what words you've read to understand into something totally different from what its meaning was originally that the founding fathers put in.
Yeah, you're right. I would say that's why it's so hard to be a Supreme Court justice, because you have to, as times go on, you have to see what the founding fathers meant by this as times change.
Right.
You know, and you get people like, KBJ in there, and that's an idiot.
Right.
So,
right.
But that's another time for another,
Another show.
Yeah. Back to shampoo directions, right?
Yeah.
But
but Murn, one thing I know that you big advocate was term limits. And
Yes.
we talked about before. I mean, I signed the term limits before as well, because I believe in it as well. So now that was never actually in Congress before, an actual set term limits. I mean, do you think that should be? Obviously, I think you do think it should be an amendment.
It has been proposed a few times, and there are a lot of other groups out there that have that, like you said, I signed it before, but it was just for term limits. It wasn't convention of states, which is the three things that we're pushing for. But in regards to term limits, it goes both sides. It's unfortunately, it is. It's not a D or an R thing or an I thing. Chuck Grassley has been in there 50 years. There's so many people. Ed Markey's been in there 48. Hal Rogers, 44. Christopher Smith, 44. These people have been in there longer than some people have been alive. They've been in. Oh, geez.
I'll be 44 next month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how long they've been in Congress.
Yeah, wow.
And that is ridiculous. And I mean, I'm not saying that they're not all doing, that they're all rotten people in any way. It's that the times have changed. Things have changed. And having somebody staying in there for 50 years is stunting the growth of our nation. And you get caught up in that's the way we've always done it. That's the way it always is, instead of, falling back into what the law says and not redefining words. Unfortunately, they changed the meaning of a word, and that isn't, you can't redefine a word. The definition of the word is the word. But today's society, you'll notice the definitions are changing, like equity. The word equity doesn't mean how much value you have in your home.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that that's what our kids are now thinking, because Congress has stopped us from looking over our education program and keeping an eye on what our kids are learning and having discussions with our teachers and our school board. And there's so many little problems that are making up the big problem. But having grandpa and Uncle so-and-so still in Congress is part of the problem.
No,
I mean, he's what, 90?
Yeah.
I think
Chuck Grassley?
Chuck Grassley's turning 90?
Something like that. Yeah.
And like you said, not that, I have anything against the man or the
nor do
job that
I.
he's doing. But I think it also becomes this cycle of we're more worried about getting reelected and keeping our job than we are doing the job of the people.
Yeah, well, one thing that I figured was designed, like Congress is only 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was designed that way by our founding fathers.
The House.
Right.
Yeah, because they control the money. So if they're spending too much money, you don't like it, you can vote them out 2 years before they completely tank it and blow your spending. But now you have these people in for so long, and then the only thing they're worried about is getting reelected. So you only have 2 years to get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
But you get elected, and then 6 months later, you're spending a year and a half campaigning for your next election, and you're not really getting anything done.
Exactly.
So,
correct.
I mean, maybe we should. I would say extend the limit of Congress, but set term limits after that. So maybe they will actually try to get something done in their 4 years, say, and then maybe they can serve one more term, and that's it. In Congress, unless they want to run for governor or something after the fact.
Yeah, because on that 2 year cycle, like you said, it's there. Everybody's constantly in a getting reelected mode.
Yeah,
It doesn't change, and you're not getting the work done that you should be getting done. You're only getting, and it's the donor thing too,
Yeah,
and all that. You're right, exactly.
Worried about fundraising, how much
Right.
money you're going to get, and that's all you're focused on instead of actually getting the job done.
Yeah, but remember too, you used to not be able to start campaigning until 3 to 6 months out, not a year and a half.
Yeah.
So they've changed the rules, or they misapplied the rules, so that now you start at a year and a half out to start campaigning and having dinners and meet and greets, and that used to be not right. We didn't do that. It was I can't remember if it was 3 months or 6 months prior to the election. That's when everybody came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, you're right. All right, well, we reached the end of the segment, so I know there's more to talk about this. Convention states, there's a ton more, and we'll get into that. We talk about it a little bit in the next episode, too, in the next segment as well. Well, the next hammer, I'm telling you, we're going to get a hammer. I'm going to put it right here on the table, a golden hammer. That way, and I'll just end of the hammer to the next one. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hammer number 2. So I'm getting used to it. So Hammer number 2 is, how does New Jersey win? And that is a question. Even whether you're Republican, Democrat, basically the state of New Jersey. We said we had like 9 million people. Yeah, registered voters. I forget exactly about, but I know on average you have roughly around 35% of Republicans come out. You have like 43% of Democrats come out to vote. I mean, that's the main reason why we're a blue state, because more Democrats come out. But it's still less than half of the registered voters on either side. Like, so how do we win? How does New Jersey change to win? I mean, I'm partisan to Republican, so but I want to know. Like, I already know why Republicans lose, because we don't get enough to come out, and we are outnumbered too. But we need more to come out. But either way, I mean, how does New Jersey win?
It's a tough question. One is, like you said, we have low propensity voting that goes on. I know, and I had talked to some of the candidates about this when they were running. I'm a hunter, firearms owner. That you would think would be the biggest ones that would be worrying about their constitutional right, Second Amendment, and freedom to hunt and do what they want to do out in the wild. They're the lowest ones we have to come out and vote. And I forget the exact number of gun owners in this state, but it's more than, a small margin. And we don't get them out. The other thing I think that GOP tends, and I get it, that why people don't want to get involved in this game. I mean, it's a dirty business. But I think that we need to find better candidates too in the GOP. And I think that we have that establishment running the show where we need that little bit more MAGA side of things in the Republican Party in New Jersey.
Yeah, I think so too. I didn't talk about, when you talk about registered gun owners, I think it's astonishing the amount that even aren't registered to vote. You would think that they were registered to vote one way or the other, but still vote for the Second Amendment. If you're a gun owner, you're going to care about that.
Yes.
Especially a legal gun owner anyway.
Yeah, correct.
But yeah, it is astonishing. It really is. But like Murn, so like, getting people out the vote. I've been talking to like young Republican clubs and younger generation kids too, whatever side they're on, and a lot of them say that they're not interested. But they complain about they can't buy a house. They complain they're in college debt and they want something to happen. I'm like, well, your vote does count. I mean,
Well,
your
that's
thoughts?
Education. Biggest thing is education. If they don't understand, and I mentor young kids, and I listen to what they're saying, and I bring them through the process. They don't even know what the First Amendment stands for. Everybody knows freedom of speech. That's all they know. That's the only thing. And you want to know how many adults know? That's all they know. They don't know what is the First Amendment. What's under the First Amendment? Getting educated. But a lot of times when kids will follow what their parents do, and if the parents aren't getting out to vote, in my family it was a party. Vote day was a party. And we made a big deal out of it. And the kids loved that, starting from when they were toddling. They went in the voting booth with us. They got used to that. Vote day. And when we would pick them up from school, I'd have my red, white, and blue, and it'd be like, vote day.
Yeah.
And then their friends wanted to come, and they'd say, Mommy, why don't you vote? How come you're not voting? And then it was like, well, we don't vote. What do you mean you don't vote? What do you mean you don't vote? We're a party. We're 4 generations walking into the voting booth. So it's also, it's part of setting an example for, other people's kids, your kids, having that conversation. Another issue I've noticed, we're not allowed to talk about it. Don't talk politics because you don't know if so-and-so is on the same side as so-and-so. And I grew up in a household where we had lunch and then we had a conversation. Again, generations. I sat there listening to my great aunt, my great uncle, my grandparents discussing the issues. They didn't agree on everything, but they had a discussion about it.
Yeah.
There was no anger. There was no nothing. You don't have to hate someone because they, vote differently than you or that they have different views. It's just like, for the hunters, when people hunt their own food, they want to go out and hunt the deer and then eat the deer, and people are like, oh, can't do that. I get it from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Well, don't look down on a hunter because he wants to hunt his food or fish. The fishermen who want to go fishing for their food and feed their families. Something has happened in that construct where people start judging based on you don't agree with me or you're not on the same page as me. And I think our kids have suffered because of that. Because for example, if I take something to a barbecue and in a certain environment, they're like, is this squirrel? Is this roadkill? And it's like, no.
That was last time.
Yeah, right. They're like, well, I'm not touching it because we're not sure if, you scooped it up off the road on your way in. I'm like, really, guys? Come on. But that, again, people start thinking like that. So I think it has to do with leading by example and educating more and opening the door to have a conversation on different views and not having an argument, just a conversation on different views.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the most important part. I mean, and today we don't have that anymore. It's so split down the middle. You're this side or this side. I've never seen politics so polarizing.
Yes.
In my entire life. And my parents haven't either. They're in their 70s. And, and one thing you said about the roadkill, it's funny because my wife, she won't eat deer meat. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, oh, it's deer. I'm like, what? The cow died the same way, but probably even worse. I'm like, but you eat the chicken, and then, it's like I don't get it. I don't get it. But it's just the mentality of picking it up at a store and actually knowing it was, just running around just recently.
Yeah.
but yeah, getting the kids involved. Like I was a 7-year-old. Born on the 4th of July.
Oh,
so
nice.
He loves the fact that he shares a birthday with America, and that's what he talks about all the time. It's great. My daughter is 11, she'll be 12 in October. And when we all go to vote, and they come with me and they almost get me in trouble a couple times. They go in like, I want to push the buttons. I'm like, shh, I'm not doing it. And then you'll have You know,
Yeah.
the one working the polls, like, he's not allowed to push him. I'm like, I know, he's just saying that. And I'm like, all right, John, get in here. No.
But they have to see the process.
Yeah.
Because when I started voting, it was click, click,
Right.
Yeah.
click. You know, that was how it worked. And growing up, our family, it was important. You know, at the end of the day, my grandfather would be like, everybody vote. You know, that was important.
Yeah.
Everybody had to, you know, he came over in 1921, and he knew what it was like to fight to get here and how great this country was. And he instilled that in us as, you know, as he got older and the more and more kids, the generations down, and I'm instilling that now on my great nieces and my nieces. I don't care how they vote. I just want them to go and vote. Be a poll worker. Be a poll watcher. Get involved in the process, because you can't complain if you don't understand the process.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, it was rigged. Okay. Do you know how the process works? Because if you don't know the process, you can't just say things.
No, I saw it on the news. It was
Right,
rigged.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a headline.
In fact, when I was voting for Congress, my son, he was 6 at the time, and if I would won the primary, I would have went up against Norcross.
Mhm.
So, you know, Norcross and Sweeney are very tight, and Sweeney actually lives down the street from me. I didn't even know until I knocked on his door, and he opened it, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna hand you this," okay, and then walked away. So, my son was in kindergarten at the time, and his teacher's name was Miss Sweeney. It was his niece. So he's like, "Yeah, I went in and I told my dad's running for Congress, and Norcross stinks." I said, "You're going to be the first kid that's going to fail kindergarten." I was like, but he's still involved. But so, I mean, what do you think about Murn was saying? Like, getting the kids involved and just them not realizing that their vote counts, or not even know the process. Like, I saw it on TV, it's rigged. Like, you know, that's all they know.
Well, that's it. You know, they only get the, you know, Mockingbird news and whatever they're spewing every time.
Yeah.
That's what people look at. You know, it's a 5-second blip of something on the news. And, you know, kids are watching that, or even if it comes on social media or what have you. They don't have, it's a disconnect thing. And that goes back to talking about, you know, the deer meat or the roadkill.
Yeah.
People are so disconnected from the past. You know, when elections came up, it was a huge party in this country. I mean, that was a privilege to go vote.
Yeah.
You know, everything shut down. It was, you know, party time. They had big, you know, parties for it. And we've gotten away from that. I think complacency is part of it too. We just figure, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. The government's the government. They're going to do who they want in there, and there's no sense in me voting. But that's your right in this country to do that. Use it. I mean, it's a privilege that you're granted being a citizen in this country. So, you know, observe that. Don't take it for granted. It's something that, like you said, her grandfather coming here.
Yeah.
He didn't have that. Now he's here in this country. That was important. You know, I think what I feel bad about, a lot of now, these are legal immigrants that come into this country. They value it more than we do.
For sure. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that because you
And it's shame.
you see people from Cuba that come over here, coming over from, you know, dictatorship and
Romania.
yeah, and they're like, you don't understand. This is like people take it for granted. You know, the freedoms that the United States has given them, and they take it for granted, and they really they get so upset actually because they're coming to the land of opportunity and freedom and all that, and they finally get here and like, wow, I'm allowed to actually do this. You know, I'm allowed to say this. I'm not, you know, and be a part of a team, a country, and my vote counts. And then they see the younger generations taking advantage of it, or taking it for granted. I would say not advantage, because I wish they would take advantage of it. Yeah. You know, but I mean, I think it's starting to change a little bit. You're starting to see it.
Yes.
And I see like the movement kind of, you know, when people say, "Oh, what's rigged government's going to give?" Well, just ask Donald Trump. You know, I mean, he's back in, and he was never supposed to be in the first place. You know, and then wasn't in the second time, but wasn't supposed to be in the third time. You know, I mean, they went after him every which way they possibly could, but he's back in. So it is possible. It is, you know, if you just rally enough people behind you. Now, granted, it's a lot easier for him to do. I mean, he's famous, he's rich, and everything else, but he still kept fighting and pushing forward, and that's what I look at it as it's like anybody can do that. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat. I mean, he was a Democrat before, then became a Republican, and I think a lot of people were. I was a Democrat before growing up, and I started looking at them, and I think they're all nuts. But that's just my opinion. But not all of them. The lefties, the far lefties, they're crazy. But there are Reagan Democrats out there. I call them like common sense Democrats.
Right, Kennedy.
Yeah,
Old school.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, no, I just hope that everyone starts to realize this. And like I said, I have been talking to like some of the younger clubs, and they're wanting to get involved with stuff, and I think it's starting to happen. I think that the young people are starting to see that they can have a voice, and they're tired of being indoctrinated and all that.
But they have to be able to talk to somebody. If somebody comes to you and talks to you, and they have a different view, whether it be independent, Democrat, or Republican, you have to listen and not say, "You're an idiot." You never want to say that to kids.
Oh,
You want to say why. You want to get into what are they thinking? What are they seeing? What were they taught? And then you can pull out the Constitution and say, well, not really.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Technically, that didn't happen. And technically, this is really how this is supposed to work. And technically, and then when they look at it and they're like, wait a minute, that's not what we were taught. You start to find out, and it's what, 2 generations now that are misinformed. They're misinformed on the way our country works, the way things work. I mean, you look at the New Jersey election last go around, where people stood in line for 6 to 7 hours after 2 o'clock in the morning. People were outraged. Like, people were coming in saying, oh, is the line still 2 hours? I don't have time for this. And it's like, you have to make time. You have to make time. I know 2 hours is a long time, and 3.5 hours. And the old people were standing there. The people that were on oxygen were standing there. And I said, let the oxygen people go. And people were like, no, they're going to cut in line. Like, really? They're on oxygen. I think they should go first. I think we could wait a little longer. So it has to be where kids know they can talk to all adults and not be fearful of flippant responses or sarcastic responses where they don't feel that their voices are valued. And the younger generations, their voices are valued. I have some kids, and their parents are like, I'm so glad that they talk to you. Because I don't know what they're saying. And, with me, we sit and debate. We'll have a nice debate. Well, give me your evidence. What are your findings? Why do you feel that way? And it's been it's educational for me, too. I'm learning from them what they're seeing and what they've learned, and they're learning from me that there's another way of doing things. So I think that it's an open door conversation. It needs to be an open door conversation.
No, I think you're right. And I had a young kid who actually worked on my campaign on the radio show last Thursday. And we were talking about a few things. And he mentioned that. He said, sometimes he feels like his voice isn't heard and nobody pays attention to what he has to say. And they just kind of dismiss him. And he's a very smart kid. He's very smart. And I made a joke with him. I said, well, you know what? You tell them that I'm the future of this country, the old people out there, and say, when I'm in charge, I want to shut down every nursing home. You have nowhere to stay. So I'm joking. No, it's a joke. But no, I made him laugh about it. I'm like, you have to let them know. Say, hey, listen, I am the future.
Right.
You should listen to what I have to say because I don't know everything. And I could learn from you. And I said, try to get them engaged. I said, but if you want to start out with a joke like that, maybe it'll make them laugh and it'll break the ice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what we have to do. But
and accountability. When you go and vote, if this poll's open at 6 a.m., you go and vote and you send out I'm number 1. And what number are you? I'm number 1. I'm number 13. As the day goes on and people respond to you, you see the current. Are people coming out? If they're not coming out, then you got to start texting your friends saying, hey, did you vote? Did you vote? Yeah. And you have to make voting cool again. You have to get people to want, because they don't want to hear you yapping. If they didn't vote, you can't say anything. You didn't vote. Yeah. You can't say anything. You're not registered. I don't want to hear you complaining because you don't have any skin in the game. Right. And little things like that really do make a difference.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too. Actually, funny you brought that up. I put something together that was awesome, and cool, but it's not going to happen. But that was the whole concept of it is to get younger people engaged and motivated, and even for mail-in ballots too. I know I'm not a fan of them, but I know it exists, and if it helps to get people, younger kids are so used to having everything at their fingertips, like quick. That's why they don't want to stand in line, and that's just the times we're in. So,
but that's a cop out too. You can mail in your vote.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the thing.
there's
Yeah,
plenty of ways and opportunities to vote. You don't necessarily have to stand in that line.
Yeah, that was my point.
Yeah,
Just get them to do that. Hey, listen,
Right.
you don't have to stand in line. You can
Right.
just request it. It comes in, fill it out, drop them in the line.
Right, exactly. Simple as that.
Such as like truckers when
Yeah,
you
when
were
I was
trucking,
on the road all the time.
he was
because
not
I never knew
necessarily
where I
here.
was going to be.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to move on to our next hammer. See, I'm getting good now. I'm not listening. So right after this break, we're here with our White House press correspondent.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Hammer number 3. So we're going to talk about Jersey farms and living. So there are a couple things that are going on. I've read these articles a while ago, and it's a problem in New Jersey, and we're seeing that they're either eminent domain people's farms for affordable housing. Farms have been in people's family for 175 years. There's one here that in Long Marion Avenue in Pine Beach, New Jersey, that they're trying to just basically get rid of this township's like entire forest and mow it all down for affordable housing. And it's, people are trying to fight it. I don't know where it's at now. I read this a while ago. You guys might know where it's at. I'm not sure, but I know you really want to talk about farming. I mean, the soybeans you want to talk about too. I'm very interested in that as well. So what do you? How important is it, to keep the farms in New Jersey?
Well, yeah, let's start with that end of it before we get into the soybeans. And I know this segment isn't long enough for me to discuss everything about soybeans. But no, where we're at and the problem that we're having, I mean, you ride around anywhere. We were down in Salem County at the fair down there, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Last Wednesday. And, it's a shame going down 40 now. All you see is warehouses that were all farm fields at one time. We have the same thing in our township. We've been fighting it to no avail. The story you just talked about with the farm up there, they are pushing back on that. People are, I think, finally starting to wake up, but it's a little too late to a lot of it.
And we didn't find out in our town until that stuff was passed
during COVID.
In 2020.
During
2020
COVID.
and 2021 that didn't come to light until 2023.
Yeah.
Late 2022, going into 2023.
Yeah.
So the process had already started. If you don't keep up on it, then you find out when the ball is starting to roll, and then you're trying to catch up.
Yeah. And the problem we've had too is, as a farmer, you can't afford the land values that these developers and warehouse people are offering people. And as farmers, we don't own all the ground we farm. We lease a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So we have different landlords, and that's where a lot of this is happening too, that these landlords have gotten older. Their kids don't want anything to do with it. So, I can offer you $4,000 an acre for the ground to farm it. The developer comes in and offers you $50,000. You're going to laugh me out.
Yeah.
You're not even going to talk to me. But the problem was that a lot of these townships, we have a preservation program in New Jersey for preserving farmland.
Yeah.
All right. We have it at a state level. We have it at a county level. Where we're at was actually in a good area because we're next to the Air Force Base, McGuire.
Okay.
So federal money gets dumped into that as well, where the township itself is not having to pay their portion of it from the state or the county. The feds will pick up a lot of that. Their reasoning too, they don't want a housing development. If that KC falls out of the air, that tanker, they don't want it land in a housing development. They'd rather have it land in my cornfield.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why they had that funding around the base. But our illustrious administration at the time refused to have preservation even come in. They wouldn't even talk to them. So these landlords that we had no choice in preservation. And now the preservation monies are up on par with some of what these developers are proposing. So having that alternative now, maybe we start to change a couple things, but the problem being, once again, too little, too late.
Yeah.
What they've already developed, you're never getting back.
Yeah. I mean,
it's done. Mm-hmm. And, people look at it, well, you grow corn and soybeans and hay and wheat and stuff. We don't eat that. Really? You don't eat chicken? You don't eat pork?
Yeah.
Where do you think soybeans go? 60% of soybean meal goes into chickens. 25% goes into hogs.
Really?
So don't tell me you're not eating what I grow, because you are.
Yeah.
You don't have that. You have a disconnect. You don't understand how things work in a life cycle.
Yeah, I got you.
And when it comes down to it, our food security is national security. Go look where there's any civil unrest in any country in the world and tell me what the number one problem is.
They're starving.
Look at Sri Lanka.
Yeah, you're right. Happened. You're right about that. Yeah, you're right.
Sri Lanka was bad. Sri Lanka was an eye-opener for everyone, and most people don't even know what happened there and what happened to the farmers, what happened to the people, and the head guy took off. So could you just imagine our president just taking off and we're left? What do we do now? What do we do now? It was a scary situation, and they're not in much better shape. They're still not in any recovery. Time takes time. That's where the farmers come in, the rotating of the crops. They are the original recyclers. They are the original preservationists. They are the originals in everything. I mean, the farmers are the ones that set the plan for the rest of us, because everybody loves driving by and seeing the open space, and they say, "Oh, it's so pretty." And then when the warehouses, they're like, it's like, well, you could have come and stood with us. Yeah. We put out a call. We've asked people to get involved, and that again comes back to convention estates, because everywhere you look, when you get into convention estates, everywhere in your life, it affects you. It affects the process. It affects the federal overreach. It affects people being involved. You can't stop something or fix it if you don't understand it. And if you're educated on the process, then you can put good people in your council that say, "Whoa up, we're not going to do that." If you have good people in your school board, you could say, "Whoa up, we're not going to do that." But without good people and knowing good people that have that moral foundation, that are willing to talk to a farmer and say, "Hey, how can we help you? How can we, as the town, the county, the state, how can we help you?" And that is a big process.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, if you think about it too, a lot of people, I think, especially younger generations too, they never had real hardships and didn't face any true adversity. So they're basically, everything's been given to them. Like everything, they just think, okay, I can Uber Eats, and then it comes to my door. They never think about where it came from, like what the process is. So if a farm goes away, and there's a warehouse there, they don't think anything of it. They're like, "Oh, wow, it's fine. I still can just go on my phone and order a pizza." Yeah. But they don't realize that there is a process to a farmland. Like when you were saying with the farm, you have to maintain that land. There's a process to it. You can't just, even if you were to give up the farm to somebody else, a new farmer can't just come in and not know what they're doing, because you'll ruin the soil, ruin the land. It's a very hard thing. I don't know how to do it. I just read about it, but I know it's a process.
No, it is. And actually, we're holding an event this Wednesday coming up. It's a program called Nourish the Future. And school teachers are now teaching this curriculum through the STEM programs with science and mathematics and all this, because people, they see the straw hat, bib overalls, and that's a farmer. They don't see the chemist. They don't see the meteorologist. They don't see the professional gambler, because that's pretty much what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different hats that we wear as farmers, and people just, like you said, it's a disconnect. You're saying, call up Uber Eats or pizza, it's delivered at my doorstep. You don't understand how it got there.
Yeah.
There's a process that goes on. And this is what we're trying to bring back through these conversations like we're having here tonight. People don't realize the amount that we go through. And American farmers, we're bar none the best in the world at what we do. Nobody can outproduce us. Nobody uses the technology the way that we do. I mean, we have so much technology into farming now with GPS, auto steer, just things within my generational lifetime of where I started from what my dad was doing, learning these processes going forward.
Yeah.
And, it's night and day in comparison. I mean, we are so much more efficient. Water usage we're efficient with. Fertilizer we're efficient with. All the things that we do. And, people need to understand that we're not the problem harming the planet,
Yeah.
And they all look at us, you're spraying glyphosate. All right, give me a break. Or GMOs, that's another one I just love. Well, anything that you eat is genetically modified. I don't care what it is, where it is. Well, no, that's not a GMO. If they grafted two things together to get something, it's been modified.
Yeah.
The corn that we grow now is not what the Indians grew, okay? It's been modified over time.
Yeah.
Whether it's genetically a genome is placed into that, or if it's just bred into
Just a
it,
crossbreed.
it's still genetically modified.
Yeah.
So, just there's so many falsehoods. The oil thing that I'm sure you've seen now with Maha and everything.
Yeah.
Let's prove it in science, because I can give you quite a few websites and people to go talk to. If the American Heart Health Association says it's good for you, but they're telling you it's not, I can give you Soy Nutritional Institute. There's nothing wrong with soybean oils, okay? They look at, we get tied into things because of the ultra processing that goes on with our foods. The oil itself is not the problem.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's part of what the ultra processing is.
Yeah, no, I follow you there. I know.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, this is where people need to learn a little bit more about what we do as farmers and where your food comes from. It's not sitting on the grocery shelf. It didn't grow there. Okay, it didn't. Trust me.
It's more education, more process.
Wow,
It keeps coming back to, everything that we talk about keeps coming back to this. You have to get educated, and that's what we do.
Okay.
We help to educate and have fun.
Well, I'm doing pretty well in my garden. I got tomatoes growing.
Yeah.
I have figs. I have canary melons. I have jalapenos. I have long hots and all kinds of stuff. I have romaine. I have
Do you have enough for the neighborhood?
No.
No. You need enough for the neighborhood.
I barely have enough for my household, so I don't have a big yard. But I have my little sections.
Right.
Just spread out. And my son he loves apples, so he wanted an apple tree. And this is actually a funny story. It wasn't at the time, to be honest with you. So I'm looking at how to germinate apple seeds.
Okay.
And I don't know if I read it right, but it worked anyway. But said put them, let them dry out, put them in a moist paper towel, and then keep it moist for like 3 weeks in the fridge, and then afterwards you plant them. So I did that. So 3 weeks go by, I go in the fridge and like, where are the seeds at? And my wife's like, I didn't know what they were. I threw them out. I'm like, oh. So I wait till my son eats an apple again, and I said the same process again. So I do it again, and I put them in the fridge. I keep keeping them moist every day. Then I go in 3 weeks later, they're gone. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
I'm like, where are they? And here my in-laws came over to babysit. What do we know what it was? We throw it out. I'm like, what do you know what it was when you throw it out? It's in my fridge. So the third time I did it, I wrote on there, I said, if you throw this out, I'll break your fingers. So,
Good.
So then got it, and I planted it inside. So the grew about like that big, and then spring hit, started warming up. It was like right around Mother's Day. I went and I planted it outside, and it started to grow a little bit. And then I go out like, it was like a week and a half later, and I look at it, it was one of the big, fat, green fluorescent worm just ate it. It was sitting on there and ate the thing and killed it. That worm died the worst death that any worm ever died. I was cursing. I smashed it to bits. Outside there's green goo all over the sliding glass door. My wife was like, "What's going on?" I said, "They ate the tree." And I just start all over again. So yeah, that was 3 years ago. So now we just got we're starting to get apples from the tree for the first time.
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
That's a plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just walk out and
Oh
take
yeah,
one
yeah.
off.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I figured I'd share that story with you.
Congratulations.
It was very frustrating.
Yes.
I feel bad for the worm still. I really do, because it just took all the frustration on that worm. So
I can understand the frustration. I've had that with probably a close cousin with grasshoppers. I've watched them destroy a soybean field in the past, or army worms where they just cut everything off and there it is. Yeah, so I understand your anger towards insects at times. Yes.
Well, he just got the brunt of it. My anger was more towards I couldn't smash my wife and my in-laws.
Right. Yeah. Strike 3 came to the worm. Yeah, I get it. But,
that's a great story.
Yeah, that's a true one, man. I still remember. I was freaking out. I'm like, I can't grow an apple tree. My son's like, yeah, I want an apple tree. I'm like, I'm trying. Help me out here. So, but all right, guys. Listen, we're coming up to the end of the show. But we got to go to segment. Hammer 4. Damn it. Hammer 4 is where we do the Patriots and the Losers Award. So we pick a Patriot of the week, and then we pick a Loser of the week. And so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll go into that segment. Sure. In a minute. He's looking for it. There it is. There it is. Up there. That one. Nope. Up there. Maybe. He's getting there. Let's see. Shh. So, but yeah. So I'm not going to give it away yet because I always pick somebody. Oh, this is great. We can just play the post. Or we'll just go back to live and we'll skip the promo, and then we'll just go right to we'll talk about who the Patriot goes to. So the Patriot of the Week Award, let's roll that. So yeah, that goes to Charlie Kirk for what South Park did. I mean, we have a little clip cut for Charlie Kirk. If we're able to pull that up afterwards, it's South Park did a little clip on him.
Let's play cut 394.
Wednesday, August 6th.
You can just shut up, baby, because you hate America and you love abortion.
So that was it right there. It was funny. It was but Charlie, he rolled with it. It was funny. Remember what they doing it with the microphone?
The microphone and the water
Wow.
bottle. They kept putting the microphone down and the water bottle.
Yeah, they were imitating when Charlie Kirk had fun with it on his podcast. It was pretty funny. But Charlie Kirk is probably always Patriot in my eyes. And then to the Loser of the Week Award, I think this might be the third time she gets this award. I mean, she's racking them up. This is South Park.
Losers! Ah, shut up!
So, and this might be her third time getting the Loser of the Week award. So it's an easy pick. I'm sorry, but I had to do it again. Because Jasmine Crockett, I mean, every time she's on TV too much, but it's another stupid thing. They said that she's the worst boss ever. She makes her staff like come and get her an Escalade and stands there, makes them get out and open it up. And it's not even, usually they come and pick up in her own car, you know, and then they said she stays up. She's, oh, no, that's not me. And I just can't stand her. She's another shampoo bottle direction person. I mean, really, I don't know how they get elected. I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. But yeah, loser of the week award again goes to Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah,
so
she ought to join the rest of her Texas friends in Chicago or wherever the heck they're still at.
Well, hopefully they gerrymander right out around her. Yeah,
maybe you won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's what she's afraid of. Just lose her seat. Which I wouldn't cry at all about that. I think the country would be a better place. All right, so that we're going to wrap up the end of the show. We'll go into our GoFundMe here for Seth, Jonah Eisenberg. Seth is sort of corner. We'll always bring this up about him. Seth had his foot. It was just emaciated. It was really bad. He was in the hospital for a very long time. You guys know I've been talking about it. We all have been talking about it for a long time. But hospital bills are piling up. He's back on his foot, I would say. You know, he's doing feet, but maybe basically foot. So he started podcasting again a couple months ago, but he is doing better, but he's just getting back to work. So we're still putting it out there for GoFundMe for Seth. He can use all the help he can get. So we appreciate anybody with that. So with that, we'll go into wrap up the show. Thank you for joining us. Murn, thank you.
Thank
Patrick,
you very
thank
much,
you very
Damon.
much. I would love to have you guys on again because I know you have a lot more to talk about at the convention of states. I know you have a lot more to talk about the soybeans. So I'm curious about them. I really am.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll ask you some questions afterwards on how I can get my tomatoes to grow bigger. So, all right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. We will see you Thursday. I will not be on the radio show, but I'll be calling in. I'm going to have a candidate. Constance Ditzel will be in studio with somebody else, but I will call into my own show for her. I'm just trying to give the candidates, airtime to get out there. But you'll see it then, and it will air on the podcast on Friday. So, all right, thank you very much. Catch you next week.
Bye.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.